right, go ahead and take a look at this one. It's another one of those permutation sort of ones where we need all the different iterations of valid parentheses in this case. And our input tells us how many different sets of parentheses we need to write. So yeah, go ahead and try this one, but it's pretty difficult, so you might just want to follow along. And I'll talk about it for a second at a high level. Basically, it's going to be a recursive solution because mostly these permutation type ones only really make sense to write recursively, because otherwise it would just be too long of an algorithm. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to keep, actually I'll talk about it as I'm typing because it'll make more sense if you see the wording. And we're going to do this one again with, by calling an helper function. I'm going to call it generate. I'm going to call it right now. And notice how I put n twice. That's because when we call this other function, generate, we're going to use n. In this case, we're going to call it open and close. We're going to use it to describe how many opening and closing parentheses we have left remaining. So we're going to just kind of keep it as a count of how many we still need to write in our result. And we're going to have a couple of base cases where we want to break out of the function that we're currently calling. One of these cases is going to be if our opening parentheses, the number is greater than our closing parentheses. So if we have like 3 openings and 2 closings, then we want to break out of that. That'll make more sense when I walk through it. And we're going to say the other base case when we want to break out of a function is, by break out I just mean return. If our opening and closing, the number of them is both 0. So we've gone through everything. And at that point, we want to push our string into our answer return. So here's where the magic happens. We're going to say, oops. Oh. If we still have, so if our opening parentheses, the number of them left is not 0, we're going to decrement it by 1. And add the opening on to our string or our answer. And we're going to go ahead and, there's only one more conditional. I'm just going to go ahead and type it and walk through it rather than walking through what we have so far, which I could do, but I think this will make more sense. So if closing parentheses, if we still have some, decrement it, and likewise add it to our answer. And that's it. And just to show you that it works, we should get what we see here, which is indeed what we get. So at this point, let's go ahead and switch to the whiteboard and walk through it. So how this one works is, let's just find our result. Actually, so that's all. And we're going to say at the top here, let's start with what we first push into it. So we've got, let's just use the input example here, 3. And let's say 3 for our opening, 3 for our closing, and an empty string. And actually, we don't need to keep track of the result because all that's doing is it's just a reference to this result. So whatever we push into here is just going to be reflected when we return it at the end. So just for clarity's sake, we don't need to keep track of it as we're walking through it on the whiteboard. So first time through, if our opening is greater than our closing, no, it's not. If they're both 0, no. If we have an opening, so if it's not 0, yes, then we're going to go through this line. And we're going to say, so decrement. So 2 here, 3 here, and then we add an opening. So this is our first one. And then we're going to say, so now we're back at the top here. So we recall this, and we're going to say, if our opening is greater than our closing, no, it's not, because our opening is 2, closing is 3. If they're both 0, no. So we get back to here again. And we say 1, 3, open, open. And we're at the same place. Go back up here. No, no. Back to here. 0, 3, open, open, open. Now, you'll notice that we need to, in order to finish each function call, we need to hit both this if statement and this if statement. So you'll notice that we're stacking these function calls on top of each other, but we're going to have to come back and also go through this second if statement because we still have closing parentheses here. It's not equal to 0. So we're going to have to go through here before we can actually be finished with that function call. So just keep that in mind. And to keep track of that, I'm actually just going to put one little line to indicate that we've gone through the first if statement, and then if we go through it again, I'll add another line like this so we know we're done with that one. That'll just help us keep track of whether we've hit both of these and we can be done with that function call. So for this we can call it the fourth function call here. Now we're finally going to get to here because as we go down, no, no, we're already done with this. So, or sorry, if open, which is not the case because open 0, so this doesn't satisfy. So we get down to here, and now we're going to say it's going to be the other way around. So, and notice, yeah, we got to add the second one here to indicate that after we finish up with this, we'll be done with this function call and we can erase it. So 0, 2, so I'm just going through right here. Boom, 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 and then we add a closing. And then same thing. This is still 0, so we don't hit this. We get down here and we say 0, 1. Boom, 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 boom. And again. So now notice that we're going through this again with 1 there. So no, no, we get down to here, we add it again, 0, 0. And as we go through again, no, yes, because now both of these are 0. So this does satisfy this. We go into here, we push our string, which is this, into our result. So 3 forwards and 3 backwards, or 3 opening, 3 closing. And now, importantly, we are done with this function call, so we can get rid of all of this. And then we can go to here, we can say, at this point, we're starting at the top here, so we say, if our opening is greater than our closing, no. If they're both 0, no. If we have an opening, which is true. So we're not quite to the second if statement yet, so we could have to stay with 1 here, with only 1 dash. So we say 0, 3, and then our string is going to be opening, opening. Oh, whoops, no, I'm wrong. So this is the tricky part about this. Since we already went through this first one, we are now on to the second if statement. So basically, we would have left off right here. So in between, before we had to call again and do what we just did with, because basically this would be this, and we do exactly what we did again. But since we've already gone through the first if statement, we don't have to start at the top with 1. We're now down here. So hopefully that makes sense. So we do get to add the second one here. So now it's 1, 2, this, closing. And then from here, this is an entirely new function call. So we have to say that we've only been through it once. And because this isn't 0, we don't just get to skip this part. So we do have to keep track of having to come back and hitting this closing. This if we have a close, this stuff I have highlighted right here. So let's say now that we get back up to here, we go through it. No, no, yes. So now 0, 2, and we have another opening like that. So now, because this has only been through once, but we still actually we have to keep going here. So because now that we have 0 here, we can get through this, but we still have to go back to do these. So now it's 0, 1, opening, opening, closing, opening, closing, and then we would do like that. And then we get to 0, 0. We do hit this one, and we push into here. That result. And so now we're done with this, but we've only gone through the top if statement. So we come back here, let's add this to indicate that we are now going on to here. And, sorry, now going on to here. So 1, 1, opening, opening, closing, closing. And then we are back at the top now. So if open is greater than close, no, no, we're back to here. And we'd say 0, 1, opening, because we just decremented and added an opening. And then so we did that once through. Now we're gonna, because this is 0, we get to go through and do this a second time. So we get to say 0, 0, like that, 0, 0, so we add this to our answer. And now, because that was the second time through, we're done with that one. And we've gone through these both twice now, so we can start from here and say, so now we're on this right here, and we get to add a second one for that. It's one that will be done for this time through. And we can say 2, 2, opening, closing. And for this part, we just get to add 1, because now we're back up here again. And it's a whole new function call, so we have to go through this and this. So we're going to say if, so no, no, yes, 1, 2, oops. And same with this, just once, because we start back up here, and we'll end up with this again. So now we go, so 0, 2, another opening. And like before, when we get to 0, we get to, because this doesn't satisfy, so we get to go down here, and we get to cross off this, because now we're getting down here on the same function call. So we're saying 0, 1, that, and then 0, 0, push that into our result, and I didn't leave enough room here, so I'm just going to cheat a little bit and put it up here because we have one more here. So this is our, because eventually we'll have 5 here, but 2, 3, 4, so we need to put one more here. I'm just going to say 5th one's right there, 4th one's right there. So we have room. And then, so now that we're done with this, we go back to here, get to cross off this for a second time through, and we'll say, so 1, 2, opening. Or actually, yeah, that's right, I believe. No, whoops. I made a mistake. So we were at this point, but we need to go through with this part of it. So now I need to go like this, 1, 1. Right, because the second time through here, we needed to go to this if statement, not this one. But I accidentally deleted this one when I came back up to here. I should have left this one and kept going from here. We'd only done this once through. So I accidentally made a mistake. I marked this one off twice, but now this time through we're marking it off twice. Anyway, I hope that didn't confuse you too much. If so, just watch the, maybe skip back to when I accidentally deleted this the first time around. We should have just kept that. And then gone to this one. So we'd say, now we'd go back up to here and we'd say 0, 1, and then finally like that. And we can push that. And we're done with that. We've gone through this twice through. You'll notice we've only gone through this one once. But as soon as we tried to go through with this if statement, we would get 3 and then 2 like this, like that, which is obviously invalid, and we would hit this return statement, so we would exit out of that without having entered that or to added that to our result. So we end up with that as our answer. So hopefully you kind of make sense of how this algorithm works now. We're sort of using these two, so mostly this one, up until the end there, mostly using this one to say that when, yeah, I mean, I just walked through it better than I'm ever going to be able to explain it here. So hopefully you saw sort of how that worked and maybe walk through it again, watch the video again if that still doesn't make sense. But you can see that, yeah, you can basically see how it works if you walk through it enough times. And hopefully if you get a problem like this, you'll maybe take a better stab at it now that you know that you can just decrement here and add here and then use these base cases to break out of the function like we did. So yeah, I mean, watch the video again if that didn't make sense, but yeah, because that explained it better than I could. And maybe look at this algorithm a little more and try it out yourself, because it is a really confusing one, but it does work really well and it is pretty efficient. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful as always.